I'm going to show you how to do a simple jetted pocket sample. So this piece of fabric represents the outside of your fabric and the placement of where you want your pocket to go. So on the back I've already stuck some interfacing. So my interfacing is about 4 centimeters wide. And my actual pocket itself is 14 centimeters by 1.5. So if you're not sure where you want to put this, you can just put some pins through first to get your placement on the outer layer, and then you can stick the interfacing in the correct place and then draw this shaping on. Again, it's 14 centimeters by 1.5. You can go longer and you can go deeper. It's entirely up to you. So you can see I've got the 4 dots around the outside edge. This fabric piece represents my pocket bag. So I've marked it on here so you can see the top and the lower edge. And then this green fabric is going to give me the jets that I want in a bright green. So that would be a suitable outer fabric. It could be the same as the outer fabric, but it's going to be sewn onto the pocket bag. So with my pocket bags, I always cut them much longer than I need, just in case there's something wrong, and I can trim them to match. So the top edge down to the bottom edge, I've created a fold line just to give me a rough idea where the center is. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to measure up about 1.5 centimeters either side. Just because once I fold the bag down, the top edge of the bag will be slightly short. So then I'm folded the contrast fabric, press through the middle just to give me an indication of the line, and then line the center of that up with the little notches, the red marks I've just made. Okay, so it's not completely in the center of the pocket bag now, but it really doesn't matter if it isn't quite there. So I've overlocked both edges, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to machine that onto the pocket bag. So I'm just going to show you, I'm going to machine. So I've got the right side of the lining looking at me and the right side of the contrast fabric looking at me. So just machine this sample on. And again, this is a really simple version of how to do a jetted pocket. If your fabric is really thick, then you have to do the traditional separate jets and separate pocket lining. But this you can put all as one, so it's a sort of one piece jetted pocket sample. But again, if you're working in a heavy wool, this is not suitable. This is just a sample that I teach to students at university. So on here, I've marked my center line, and I'm going to line it up with there. So my pocket is 14 centimeters. So I give myself an extra 2 centimeters either side just for tolerance on my pocket. So my pocket bag would be 18 centimeters. So the width is 18 centimeters. So I'm just going to put my 4 dots in at 14 centimeters. There, and then measure up 1.5 to put my second dots. So these should tally with the dots on the calico sample. Okay, if they don't tally completely, that's okay, but we want to get it quite straight. So I'm just going to take my pins back out and then over to the right side. So on the right side there are no markings at all. So to make sure I'm getting it correct, I'm just going to put pins through the 4 dots to mark the jetted pocket position. So I can see this from the front of the fabric. With calico it's not that obvious, but you can see the pins, so be careful because they're quite vicious sticking out. And I've got the top of the pocket at the top, the lower edge at the bottom, and then I just need to make sure the red dots coincide with the pins. So if you just look, I'm going to match them up and pop the pins all the way through, making sure the pocket bag with the contrast fabric is in the right position. So it's a little bit fiddly, but as long as it's straight, it should be fine, absolutely fine. So 1, 2, and then just match those two up. But obviously be careful with the pins sticking through. They can be a little bit lethal at times. And then smooth it out as you go, because you don't want it to crease or pucker at all. And then just line here. I am lining up the other two, so that'll be the 4 dots lined up there. Okay, so again, there are no markings on the outside of the garment because you wouldn't want any markings at all. Make sure it's smooth, pull your pins through. And I'm going to remove these in a minute, but I'm going to secure the pocket bag into place so there will be no movement. So just with 4 or so pins, pin it into place so that there's no movement and it's smooth, and then you can just turn it over and remove the sticky out pins, and then maybe pop in some other pins just to make sure nothing is going to move. So we're almost ready to sew. You can see I've got the top section, the right side of the fabric, so I've got right sides of fabric facing each other. Okay, and just to secure, I'm going to put a couple of more pins in here and here, and also we're going to start in the very center, go to the 1 dot, count the stitches from one to the other, across, count the stitches down, back to the center, back stitch, so you never start at a corner. So what I do now is I just pin the pocket bag top and bottom so that it doesn't get trapped as I sew on the machine, because I've done that before, and you turn it around and your lining of your pocket bag is stitched where you don't want it to be sewn or caught. So over to the sewing machine. Again, I'm going to start in the middle, never ever start at the end, at a corner, okay? So start there, a little back stitch, and then go forward to the first dot, and then take your time as you come to the dot and needle right in at the point of the dot. If it's not quite right, just get your needle in, pivot, and then I do this by using the wheel by hand, and I count the stitches because I want both ends to be exactly the same. And then across the top edge to the next dot, and again, once you're coming towards the end, just be really careful you don't shoot past the dot, because then you'll have some unpicking to do. Needle in, pivot, and then again using the wheel I count the stitches because we want both ends to be exactly the same width. Okay, and then back to where I started, a few little stitches over, and then back stitch, so it should be nice and straight. Okay, and then trim your threads off. As you can see, I've not caught the pocket bag anywhere else because the pin's holding it in place, and it's nice and smooth at this point. So what I'm going to do is the center line and the little lines going out to the points are cut lines, and so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pinch it up in the center to start with and do a big snip with my scissors just to get it started. Okay, and that's through all layers, so you can see there's a hole, and then just snip along to there, one end and the other. So you must keep the triangles are really important because we need to pull on those. Then if you've got some small sharp scissors, you need to snip up to the stitches in the corner. Don't be too scared to go too close, don't go too far, don't snip through your stitches, but you need to go right up to the stitch in order for it to pull through cleanly. So just remember, this can only be done with a lightweight fabric, so not heavy wools. So once you've done that, that should be fine. Take your pins out, and once you've done this, we can then pull the pocket bag through. Okay, so on the ironing board, just check everything's okay, give it a gentle press, and then just push your pocket bag through from the right side to the wrong side. Okay, and it gives you a letterbox shape. So gently, just gently tease it. And I'm going to clarify the seams along here. If I had a sleeve board, I would lift it up on my sleeve board and use the nose of the iron, but unfortunately I'm working at home and don't have a sleeve board. So I'm just going to nose the iron to open the seam allowance along the longer edge. That one. Okay. Be careful not to catch anything else when you're doing this. That's why I use a sleeve board, because everything else hangs off the sleeve board and you've just got a tiny amount on there. So just gently all the way along, just to open the seams a little bit, and that just clarifies the seams. Now the corners, you need to give them a good tug. You want them to just keep gently tugging them and opening up the rectangle shape, or the letterbox shape actually. So try smoothing it gently. Okay, give it a little bit of a move around. Okay, and then once you've done that, just see if you can open up the rectangle as well and do the same as you've done with the iron. Just get a little press to clarify where the seam is on both ends. So it's quite fiddly. Again, this could be bigger if you wanted your jets to be bigger. This is only 1.5, but 2 centimetres, 3 however big, if you wanted your jets to be nice and wide and really obvious. Mine are going to be obvious because they're bright green. But okay, so I'm smoothing it out now, and then from the right side I'm going to have a little look, and again try to get rid of the corner green as much as you can. So I'm just going to put a pin which indicates the very centre of the 1.5. Okay, so I'm doing this by eye, but I want to get the centre of 1.5. So this is an indicator of where the jets need to come to. As you can see, I haven't pressed the jets. So there we go. That's an indication. So I'm going to try to ease the fabric now, slide the fabric forward in line with the pins at either end of my letterbox shape. Okay, so very gently, and this takes a little bit of time, and again, if I had a sleeve board I would do this on my sleeve board. So don't make them, it's very easy to make them too fat and chunky, so they need to be, if it's 1.5, these need to be 0.75 width. Okay, so give them a gentle press. They're better off being slightly thinner than fatter, because the fabric will come down and disguise anything behind it in a little while. So give it a gentle press. Okay, and there should form a little pleat at the back when you've done this. So at either side you just need to make sure it's in place and then pin it in place once you're happy with them. So take your time when you do this, because you need to tug it and you need to create a little pleat. It goes all the way along. My pleat is only 0.75, so it's fiddly. But again, you can make yours much wider if you want to. Your opening and your jets would be bigger. So the green parts are what are called the jets. So again, I'm just going to slide my fabric up to meet the jet that I've just created. And again, take your time to do this, because it's quite fiddly. But you can do it. It just takes a little bit of time and a little bit of fiddling, and smooth them along. So again, don't make them too chunky. They don't want to overlap. They just want to meet and just meet. And it's quite easy to open them in the middle, because the bigger the opening, the wobblier it is. So try to keep them 0.75 each. When you're happy with it, have a little press with the iron, gentle press all the way along. Okay, I'm quite pleased with this one. It's very obvious and bright green. Flip it over to the back, and as you can see, they should be pleated all the way along at the back. Okay, if you've got a little tuck, it's not too important, but again, the neater it is, the better it is. Okay, once you're happy with that, turn it over. So pressing is the key to everything when you're making a nice pocket. You want it to look professional. So I'm quite happy with mine. So I'm just going to give it another gentle press. So now I've done that, look at the back again, and you can see my pleats there, and they should meet. So again, you need plenty of pressing. So just finish off that corner. Okay, you can see that's the right side of fabric and the right side of the pocket, and it's going to come down like that and should match up at the bottom. But if it doesn't, you can always trim it away a little, because I always make my pocket bags too long. So that's the general look of it. You can, if you want to at this stage, top stitch around the outside edge. So if you wanted to, you could just machine stitch, but I'm going to do mine invisibly. I don't like the machine stitch, so I'm going to pin along the stitch line, holding the pleats into place that I've created, and then I'm going to pin the other triangle. Again, you can top stitch this if you like. A lot of garments are top stitch, but really nice quality things generally aren't top stitch because it can be a little bit ugly. So this is going to have no top stitching at all, and this secures the corners. So I want to secure the corners so nothing moves. Always check the back once you've pinned it. So going to the sewing machine, I'm going to machine the triangles down, and I'm going to go straight on top of the original stitching. Okay, so just a few little stitches to hold this in place, and this will hold the corner of your pocket and strengthen it as well and stop it from moving. So just again, when you're doing something as intricate as this, make sure you're using a small stitch. Don't use a large stitch. So you use tiny stitches because it's intricate work. So that's one sewn, and then exactly the same on the second one. I'm going to remove the pin, and then I'm just going to stitch on top of the previous stitch line when I first made my rectangle. So back and forth so it doesn't move. Again, I've just used white thread, but you probably would want to use a green thread. Obviously my fabric is green and ivory, so you may want to get a choice of thread, but I've used white so it's quite obvious for you to see. So the corners are sewn. Now you can still top stitch this if you want to, or you can sink stitch right in the groove, or you can flip it over and sew from inside. So sink stitching in the groove is great as well, but this will hold it in place and no stitching at all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin this longer edge, just like I pinned the triangles, a couple of pins in. Always check that nothing has shifted before you sew, and that looks good. So I will now go turn it around and machine it. So I'm just going to machine again on top of the stitch line that I've already done. If you can't get bang on top, then just go slightly to the outside edge. It's just to hold the jet in place so when you use the pocket it doesn't wobble around, because it's not a separate jet, it's part of the pocket bag. So we've just got the stitches along there to hold it and stop it from moving. So once you've done that, trim your thread, and as you can see, both stitches are on top of each other or right next door to each other. Okay, and just trim it away. Again, generally it's all the same colour, but I've done it in a bright colour just to make it obvious. So I'm going to do exactly the same at the bottom. So again, flip the fabric up and line up the seam, and then I'm just going to pin it to the pocket bag in a couple of places. And just check, always check, because it could have shifted, and you don't want to ruin it at this stage and sit there unpicking. So it's okay. When you're doing this, always check your pocket bags as well, because sometimes they get caught and then you flip it over and there's a corner of a pocket bag caught. So again, all I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch to hold this, a little back stitch, and carefully along the line that I've already stitched, And towards the end, it doesn't matter if you don't come right to the end, because it's not going to move because it's stitched down really well. And then that, so mine's quite obvious because my stitching is white, the stitch mark on the back, but you can see I've made it obvious so you can see for the video. And then that's it. So there's no movement now, and it's neat because there's no top stitching. So now I'm going to just bring my pocket down, and as I've tried, as I can see, my pockets don't match, so there's something wrong with my measuring. But because I always cut my pocket bags much bigger than I need, I can slice the bottom off. So I'm sure there's some measuring, and when I'm at uni we have patterns that I've created, so I could have started off with a pattern, but obviously I'm at home and on lockdown and I don't have my patterns to hand. So I'm just pinning the pocket bag together now, and then just going to sew around the pocket bag. So if this is a lined garment, you will not need to top stitch, you will not need to overlock this, you just sew the bag. And you can see that my pocket bag that came down is a little bit too short, but my students at uni are used to my way of pattern cutting at times. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to stitch around the bag. You can, and I would suggest you come down past over the triangles. You don't have to come as close as before because they've already been stitched down, so catch the triangle anyway, and it's just a case of stitching around the pocket bag. Okay, after I've rethreaded. Okay, so a little stitch and then a back stitch, and I take my pins out as I go, generally. And again, if you wanted to curve this pocket bag off at the bottom, then do so. But this is going to be generally inside of something, but once you've done this, if it's on a garment that's not lined, you will need to then overlock the edges to make it nice and neat. You wouldn't overlock the edges if it was lined, because it makes more bulk and you can feel it through the lining, and it's just not necessary. So come to the edge, over the triangle and back again, but again you don't have to go close over the triangle. I'll just trim my threads away, and then that's my pocket bag sewn, and that's what could be the outer layer of my jacket or trousers, so wherever you want to put your jetted pocket. But it's just a simple jetted pocket, and as you can see with the colour, I'll go to the ironing board, so give it a gentle press again. Okay, and as you can see, the fabric behind it is the same colour, which is why I put the fabric onto the pocket bag, the contrast fabric. As you can see, the bottom of the fabric is, the pocket bag is a lighter fabric anyway, generally. And then when you put your hand in, you've got the contrast colour, so it looks quite nice. So generally it's done. So that's my pocket bag.